Little is left to tell. Little is left to tell. In a last attempt to obtain relief, he moved from where they had been so long together in a single room on the far bank. From a single window, he could see the downstream extremity of the Isle of Swans. Relief, he had hoped, would flow from unfamiliarity, unfamiliar room, unfamiliar scene, out to where nothing ever shared, back to where nothing ever shared. From this he had once half hoped some measure of relief might flow. Day after day, he could slowly be seen pacing the islet, hour after hour, in his long black coat, no matter what. At the tip, he would always pause to dwell on the receding stream. How in joyous eddies its two arms conflowed, and flowed united on, then turn, and slow steps retrace. In his dreams, then turn and slow steps retrace. In his dreams he had been warned against this change, seen the dear face and heard the unspoken words, "Stay where we were so long alone together. My shade will comfort you." He could not, seen the dear face and heard the unspoken words, "Stay where we were so long alone together. My shade will comfort you." Could he not now turn back, acknowledge his error, and return to where they were once so long alone together? Alone together, so much shared. No. What he had done alone could never be undone. Nothing he had ever done alone could ever be undone. By him alone. In this extremity, his old terror of night laid hold on him again, after so long elapsed as if never been. Yes, after so long elapsed as if never been. White night now again his portion, as when his heart was young, no sleep, no braving sleep till dawn of day. Little is left to tell. One night, little is left to tell. One night, as he sat trembling, head in hands, from head to foot, a man appeared to him and said, "I have been sent by," and here he named the dear name, "to comfort you." And drawing a worn volume from the pocket of his long black coat, he sat and read till dawn, then disappeared without a word. Some time later he appeared again, at the same hour, with the same volume, and this time without preamble, sat and read it through again, the long night through, then disappeared without a word. So from time to time, unheralded, he would appear to read the sad tale through again, and the long night away, then disappear without a word. With never a word exchanged, they grew to be as one. Till the night came at last when, having closed the book, and dawn at hand, he did not disappear, but sat on without a word. Finally he said, "I have word from," and here he named the dear name, "that I shall not come again. I saw the dear face, and heard the unspoken words. No need to go to him again, even if it were in your power." So, sad, saw the dear face and heard the unspoken words. No need to go to him again, even if it were in your power. So, the sad tale at last time told, they sat on as though turned to stone. Through the night, a single window dawn shed no light. From the street, no sound of reawakening, or was it that it buried in who knows what thoughts they paid no heed? To light of day, to sound of reawakening. What thoughts? Who knows? Thoughts? No, not thoughts. Profounds of mind, buried in who knows what profounds of mind. Of mindlessness, whither no light could reach, no sound, so sat on as though turned to stone. Is that tale the last time told? Nothing is left to tell. Standing on flagstones at the sidewalk at the entrance to Hades, Orpheus, hunched in a gust of wind, tore at his coat, rolled past in waves of fog, tossed the leaves of the trees. The headlights of cars flared and dimmed in each succeeding wave. He stopped at the glass-paneled door, uncertain whether he was strong enough for the ultimate trial.
Remembered her words.
You're a good man.
You did not quite believe it. Lyric poets usually have, as you knew, cold hearts. It is like a medical condition. Perfection in art is given in exchange for such an affliction. Only the love warmed him, humanized him. When he was with her, he thought differently about himself. Could not fail her now. when she was dead.
So, he pushed open the door and found himself walking in a labyrinth. Corridors, elevators. The light was not light, but the dark of earth. Electronic dogs passed him noiselessly. He descended many floors, 100, 300, down. He was cold, aware that he was nowhere, under thousands of frozen centuries on an ashy trace where generations had moldered, in a kingdom that seemed to have no bottom and no end.
Thronging shadows surrounded him. He recognized some of the faces. He felt the rhythm of his blood. He felt strongly his life with its guilt. And he was afraid to meet those to whom he had done harm. But they had lost the ability to remember, and gave him only a glance, indifferent to all of that. For his defense he had a 9-stringed lyre. He carried it in the music of the earth, against the abyss that buries all of sound and silence. He submitted to the music, yielded to the dictation of a song, listening with rapt attention, became, like his lyre, its instrument.
Thus he arrived at the palace of the rulers of that land. Persephone, in her garden of withered pear and apple trees, naked with black with naked branches and varicose twigs, listened from the funereal amethyst of her throne.
He sang of brightest mornings and green rivers. He sang of smoking water in the rose-colored daybreaks, of colors cinnabar, carmine, bird sienna, and blue, of delight of swimming in the sea under the marble cliffs, of feasting on a terrace above the tumult of a fishing port, of the taste of wine, olive oil, almonds, mustard, salt, of the flight of the swallow, the falcon, of the scent of an armful in lilacs in summer rain, of having composed his words always against death, and having made no rhyme in praise of nothingness.
I don't know
Said the goddess.
whether you loved her or not, yet you have come here to rescue her. She will be returned to you. There are conditions. You are not permitted to speak to her or on the journey back, to turn your head even once to assure yourself that she is behind you. And so, Hermes brought forth Eurydice. Her face no longer hers, utterly gray, her eyelids lowered beneath the shade of her lashes. She stepped rigidly, directed by the hand of her guide. Orpheus wanted so much to call her name, to wake her from that sleep, but he refrained, for he had accepted the conditions.
And so they set out, he first, and then, not right away, the slap of the god's sandals and the light patter of her feet fettered by a robe, as if by a shroud. A steep climbing path phosphorized out of darkness, like the walls of a tunnel.
He would stop and listen, but then they stopped too, and the echo faded.
And when he began to walk, the double tapping commenced again.
Sometimes it seemed closer, sometimes more distant.
Under his faith, a doubt sprang up and entwined him like cold bindweed.
Unable to weep, he wept at the loss of the human hope for the resurrection of the dead. But he was now like every other mortal. His lyre was silent, yet he dreamed defenseless. He knew he must have faith, and he could not have faith. So he would persist for a very long time, counting his steps in a half-wakeful torpor.
Day was breaking. Shapes of rock loomed up under the luminous eye of the exit from underground. It happened as he expected. He turned his head, and behind them on the path was no one.
Sun and sky, and in the sky white clouds. Only now everything cried to him. Eurydice! How will I live without you, my consoling one? But there was a fragrant scent of herbs, the low humming of bees, and he fell asleep with his cheek on the sun-warmed earth.
To be or not to be? That is the question. Whether it is nobler in the mind to suffer the slings and arrows of outrageous fortune, or to take arms against the sea of troubles. And by opposing in them, to die, to sleep,